In today's video, I will show you the process of sewing this zippered tote bag. This is a super popular style right now that all the fashion people are wearing, and you can get this look at a fraction of the cost with some added little extras. To begin, you'll need to download the pattern. The link is available below. Both sizes of the bag are included with your pattern, along with fully illustrated instructions. Once you have your pattern, you'll print it out on your regular home printer paper and stick it together. Lots of people have different methods for this, but I like to fully trim away the edges of the page and then use masking tape to align the labelled triangles. Then I cut out each pattern piece. The pattern instructions do include a breakdown of the pages you need for each element and size of the project. For fabric, you do have some flexibility in type, but you want a tight, stable woven with absolutely no stretch. Think canvas, cotton twills, denims and upholstery fabric. The sturdier your fabric, the more rigid your end bag will appear. I have used a canvas here which is on the softer side of the scale, and I'll include the link below if you want to check that out. I cut each piece in turn, single layer, and used under 1 metre of 1.5 wide fabric. The bag has 3 optional internal items. You can include any or none of them. We'll begin construction by making each of these elements in turn, so feel free to skip ahead if you are not including them. Starting with the internal slip pocket, press the top edge under by 1 cm and then 1 cm again. Sew it with just shy of a 1 cm seam allowance. I am using a contrast thread so you can see the details. If you are less experienced sewing, I suggest trying this with matching thread so you can hide more. Place on top of your internal pocket zipper bottom and align with the sides and bottom edges. Sew around these 3 edges with a 1/8 inch seam allowance. At this point, you also want to split your pocket up into whatever size and sections you need. I like 1 central line, but you can add more so you can have a pen or lipstick pockets. Finish the top edge and the bottom edge of the internal pocket zipper top. I have used my overlocker, but you can use a zigzag stitch on your regular machine. This is just to prevent the edge fraying with time. Align your smallest zipper face down to the top edge, centering it. I am using a zipper longer than the instructions asked for, as I already had it in my stash. Change to your zipper foot and sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Press the zipper the correct way, aiming the seam allowance to the bottom of the pocket and ensuring you don't melt your zipper teeth with the iron. Then top stitch along the edge with a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Repeat this process for the other side, attaching it to the finished edge of the internal pocket zipper top. When you do this, align it with the bottom section so you get a neat, smooth rectangle. Take your internal pocket back and align the full pocket section we have just put together on top. When you do this, align the bottom and side edges. If you have some excess fabric on the top edge, don't worry about it. Depending on the thickness of your fabric, you get some variation in size here. Sew around the 3 edges with a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Ensure you pull your zipper pull into the middle before you stitch. Internal pocket binding is formed by pressing each long edge in by 1 centimetre, then pressing in half. Do this process for all 3 strips. We will apply this to the bottom edge of the pocket first. Now there are lots of ways for securing binding. Use the method you feel the most comfortable with. In the instructions, I secure the front edge and back separately. Here, I've just clipped it on and sewn through both layers at once. There is no right or wrong way. Trim the edges level with the sides. Now repeat the process for the 2 side edges. The only difference now is that on the bottom edge, we will fold the binding under by 1 centimetre and ensure you align it with the bottom when you attach it to the pocket. Trim the excess away and we will move on to the key fob. Similar to the binding, fold the long edges into the centre and then fold in half, pressing it with an iron. Top stitch up each long edge with a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Thread on the hardware you prefer, either a key loop or a lobster clip. Mine is a little large, but I prefer a clip to a hoop. Fold under the end by 1 centimetre, then an inch. Stitch it with multiple back and forth stitches to secure. It's not always easy to sew thin, thick fabric like this. It helps to use a bump to lift the back of the presser foot, and if you are still struggling, you can sew here by hand for more precision. The bottle holder is my favourite addition to this bag, compared to the shop-bought style I own. This was the reason I made my own. Fold the long edges under by 1 cm and press. Then 1 cm again. Top stitch with just under a 1 cm seam allowance on both sides. Again, set this aside for later. The top zipper is one of the style-defining elements of this tote, and it allows for full access while securing your items when shut, which most totes lack. The zipper you use is your choice. You can use a regular cut-to-length zipper, or you can get a zipper like this, which is slightly stronger and made of metal teeth. This gives it a good chunky appearance that I like. Or finally, you can use a cut-to-length zipper like so. They all work. I will be using the metal teeth option today as I like the appearance. Prepare the main zipper edge by pressing the long edge in by 1 cm and then in half. This binding process is used throughout this and ties all the elements together visually. Align to the zipper edge at the closed end. You can have an overlap of about 1 cm beyond the zipper stop, so 1/8 inch from the binding edge. You want a gap between your binding and your zipper teeth large enough to be able to still open the zipper and also layer more fabric over this. The end of the zipper is finished by the main zipper tab. Press all 4 edges under by 1 cm. Then press in half on the fold line given on the pattern. Slide this on the end of the zipper, aligning the edges and covering the end of the binding. Sew the edge in the pattern shown with a 1/8 inch seam allowance, making sure you are working from the top side of the zipper. Now we add the wings. Please listen carefully to this step. Working with one side of the zipper at a time, we will sandwich 2 of the main zipper sections right sides together facing each other around the zipper tape. You want to align your side to 1 cm beyond the beginning of your zipper. But what you must do is turn the excess zipper tape under like this. This will secure it inside and is especially important if you are using cut-to-length zipper. On the first side, I am going to show you what happens when you do not curl it under, so you can see the importance of this step. So align either side as I say and we will sew with a 1 cm seam allowance, stopping about 3 cm from the end. When you get to the binding, feel with your finger and ensure you are sewing so it is fully covered. Snip the corner and turn the correct way out, pressing it sharp. Press under the open end by 1 cm on both top and bottom so the raw edges go inside. Sew the 3 edges with a 1/8 inch seam allowance, securing the edge wing fully in place. Again, work from the top side of the zipper. Repeat this for the other side of the zipper tape, aligning to the same starting point. On this side, I will fold under that tape correctly. As you can see, the end is turned rather than sticking straight up out of the end. The exact same process as before for sewing is undertaken, just working the opposite side. Okay, so the top section is done and confirm your zipper opens and shuts still. But now we can see the difference in the tapes. The side that was turned over is completely encased within. The side I left out straight is raw at the top. If this was a self-cut tape, your zipper would come completely off the end when you shut it. So make sure you turn that tape under. It doesn't feel a big step doing it, but it makes a huge difference. Handles are pressed under by 1 cm on the long edge and then pressed in half. Measure either end as shown, depending on size option, and mark with chalk. Sew the open edge with a 1/8 inch seam allowance between these two lines. I like to work on both handles here so I can guarantee symmetry, rather than forming one and then forming a second. Fold the handle in half and measure 9 cm from the fold on both sides. Pinch the edges together in between these lines. This is where the symmetry comes in. I keep the seam line on opposing sides. Now sew from the folded edge along the seam line already made and then back to the folded edge. If you want a rounder feeling handle, you can place scrap fabric inside this section for padding. Make sure you backstitch plenty at the start and beginning. Before we can put these on the main body of the bag, we need to prepare them by applying fusible interfacing. Use woven fusible interfacing. It is so much more structured than the non-woven types, even though it is more expensive. Transfer your pattern markings on the front with chalk. Then align your handle within. As you work, check it is not twisted. Place the stitch line on the inner circle. Now, in terms of which way up handles go, you see conflicting advice. I personally like the fold to face inside as I think it looks more polished. The designer version of this bag has the fold facing outwards, and I think it's so the handles stand up by themselves, falling against each other with gravity rather than the side of the bag. Do whichever feels right to you. Just ensure you are consistent on both sides of the bag. Top stitch in place using the lines providing on the pattern as a guide. You will at points align with your handle stitching lines during this process. Here is the finished body sections. If you wanted to add any form of embellishment or decoration to these, this is probably the ideal time to do that, as it is the last time it is flat. Both sections of the base are also interfaced to make them sturdy. Align the outer base to the bottom edge of the main body front section, right sides together. Turn over and align the inner base to the same edge. Sew with a 1 cm seam allowance. Press open and top stitch along this edge with a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Working on your inner base, press under the long edge by 1 cm. Now align your main body back right to the outer base only, right sides together. Sew with a 1 cm seam allowance. Ensure your inner base is out of the way. Press the seam allowance away from the body. Looking inside, fold the inner base into place, aligning that pressed edge with the seam just made. Pin it in place and edge stitch again with a 1/8 inch seam allowance, working from the outside of the bag as you sew. The top edges are pressed under by 1 cm and then 2 cm. I like to draw these lines with chalk to make sure I get them really even and straight. As you work, fold your handles out of your way. Do this for both sides. We will now attach the zipper and any internal elements we have included. Mark the centre point of elements and your bag to help you align things here. I like to place the pocket centrally on the back, so align the top edge of the pocket with the 2 cm fold line. Then align the zipper section on top. All of these elements should be placed with the right sides up. Once in position, fold back down that top edge. We will be sewing this down with just short of a 2 cm seam allowance. Work from the outside of the bag. It gives you a neater, cleaner line when you're done this way up. You have a lot of fabric under your machine now, so take your time and use a heavy duty needle if you need it. On the opposite side, I secure the key fob near the opening end of the zipper as it makes it more accessible. Then I align the zipper with the central points and pin it into the fold as before. So as we did the other side, working from the outside of the bag. Be careful to fold everything out of the way as you work here, just take it slow. The top edges of the sides are pressed under by 1 cm and then 2 cm to match the top edge of the main body. This is sewn with the same top stitch edge. The strap tabs are attached to the sides. Fold under the long edges by 1 cm, then one of the short edges by 1 cm. Fold in half and press. Sew down each side with a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Slide on your D-rings that you can hook a strap on later. Fold in half so the reverse side is slightly shorter than the front. The front edge is the side we tucked under by 1 cm. Place on the inside of your side using the guide shown on the pattern for placement. Sew in place with the cross pattern we used on the handles and tabs previously. The sides are attached with French seams to the bag for both neatness and structure. Though the process of forming them can take patience and practice, do not rush this. Give yourself plenty of time and consider a practice run with scrap fabric if you want. Carefully turn the bag inside out. It helps to open your zipper in this part to give yourself more space to work. I also start with the side that is closed end of my zipper. Align the side to the main bag edges, matching the centre points of the base to the short edge centre and the top edges of the sides. Follow the edges round, pinning in place. The corners won't pin neatly, but get as close as you can. We will sew from top edge to top edge. backstitching securely at the beginning and end with a 1 centimetre seam allowance. You can do this in one run, or as I will do here, work from top edge to centre point at the base, then the opposite top edge to the base. So sew straight down to the corner, pulling the fabric taut and straight underneath. Feel as you go. You may need to unpin the base section as you come closer to give yourself flexibility. Keep sewing till you hit that corner point. Sew the fold seam between the base and the main body section. Once your needle hits that, stop sewing, leaving your needle down. Lift your presser foot and then turn your whole bag so you can now sew along the base. You will need to pull the fabric out from the back out of the way. This is bulky and tricky, but take your time. Work on your bag for seam allowance and not your sides. The corners may extend a little more than 1 centimetre, but that is fine, just work as close as you can. Check this whole seam has no gathers or tucks before proceeding, and fix them now. If happy, trim the seam allowance down to 0.5 centimetres. Turn the bag the correct way round, then pinch out them side edges again so the seam is on the very edge. I use clip hairs due to the bulk. Sew again with a 1 centimetre seam allowance, repeating the process of pivoting at the corner and then adjusting all the fabric under the footer to twist to the new direction. For the next side, which is the side at the opening end of the zipper, I place my bottle holder. In this location, you can access your drink without opening your whole bag. You can insert bottles larger than your bag so they stick out of the top whilst the zipper is still closed up to them. It's the handiest, most secure location. On the inside of the side, align the bottle holder to the notches, pinning on both sides. This will give you a loop for the bottle to sit within. I've made this fairly large to accommodate bigger cups with handles, but if you know your bottle is smaller, feel free to trim the short edge to fit your bottle size. We will now attach this side the same as we did the last one. Always check your edges before trimming your seam allowance. Here is the finished bag. You have it in large and small. You have secure top handles and that neat edge. On top you have the zipper section that opens really wide for accessing your things and the tabs for adding a shoulder strap. For size comparison, here is a Chili's 500ml bottle. So in the small, the top would protrude, which is why we have placed that bottle holder on the opening side. You can buy a shoulder strap ready-made, or you can purchase strap webbing and the hardware to make your own. I like shop bought as I just find it more cost effective, and there are so many options these days in terms of style. The large version is actually really big, as I will show you here. So we have a 500ml bottle. It will fit an A4 folder, making it a great bag for school or work. Add in an iPad, my Kindle and a makeup bag. A calculator and my gadget pouch from a previous pattern, along with my phone in a pocket. I have all my stuff in the internal zip pockets and I have room to spare and it still shuts. The smaller version is more compact for day-to-day use but still fits plenty inside. If you like bags, you'll like this for the looks and also for them added additions internally to make this a bit more practical. You can really personalise colour, the hardness of the structure and what you include. My name is Elfie, so I hope you have enjoyed today's video and learned how to construct your bag. Please subscribe for more sewing content and tutorials. Happy sewing!